Joining us now is Senator Tom Cotton, who was part of this, well, I call it a farce because all of these have become politicized over the years. Senator Cotton, this point of this one case, which I decided to focus on, it's an area of law, as you know, for many years, the immigration law, that I think has been absolutely bastardized by activists and, sadly, judges. What does this tell us about her judicial philosophy, which she decided she wasn't going to really address today?
Laura, the case tells us that Judge Jackson is a far-left activist. She always has been. Just because she put on a black robe 10 years ago, she didn't change. As you outlined, she took an immigration law that removed all jurisdiction from the federal courts for expedited removal. The Trump administration acted on that law, and she still reviewed it, and she still enjoined the Trump regulation nationwide. Her Court of Appeals, one of the more liberal Court of Appeals in America, said that it was a blatant disregard for the plain language of the statute. It goes to show that a far less left activist will take the steps they want to achieve the results. There was another case that I highlighted, Laura, of a fentanyl kingpin, to use his own words. She sentenced him because of mandatory minimums in 2018 to 20 years. She apologized at the sentencing hearing to him. She said she was sorry she had to do so and shared his frustration. He came back 2 years later for a bogus COVID early release motion. She denied that as she had to, but then she just took it on her own initiatives to strike 7.5 years from his sentence, which she never wanted to impose in the first place. That's the kind of far-left
Senator, we actually have a part of that.
We saw on display in the last 2 days.
Senator, just so people who didn't watch the hearing today, I want them to see what you're talking about so they understand how important this is. Watch.
Before you granted this fentanyl kingpin's motion to reduce his sentence, did you contact any of the victims?
Senator, Mr. Young was not released. His sentence was reduced, and I did not contact the victims in this case because there were no victims. He committed a crime, a drug crime. There were no identifiable victims in his case.
Drug crime is not a victimless crime.
I mean, we've had 51,000 overdoses, I believe, just in the past year. Most of them involve some level of fentanyl overdose. Isn't that right, Senator? How do we call that a victimless crime? It is beyond me.
Yeah, in the last full year for which we have data, it was 100,000 overdoses, Laura. So that's not just 100,000 victims, but hundreds of thousands of loved ones, of parents and husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, children, friends, who are being killed by the poison that is largely coming in across our uncontrolled southern border. But Judge Jackson, like so many far left activists, thinks that mandatory minimums for drug crimes are too harsh, just like she apparently thinks that mandatory minimums for child pornography are too harsh. She consistently sentences on the lowest end of the sentencing guidelines or even deviates downward from the sentencing guidelines. That's what we've seen over the last 2 days examining her record, as she is a far-left activist who always, almost always, finds a way to sympathize with the criminals, not with the victims.
Senator, I just still can't believe sole unreviewable discretion. That's what the statute says in the immigration case. And she just refused to apply it and said, oh, no, I can review that and totally invalidate that. Unbelievable. Senator,
it's astonishing,
great job
Laura.
today.
And as you said, her Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. is not exactly a bastion of right-wing thought. It is one of the most liberal Court of Appeals in America, and they have been repeatedly reversed by the Supreme Court for engaging in similarly egregious decisions. But even they said that this was beyond the pale. It was one of the worst examples they had ever seen of disregarding the plain language of the statute. I don't know how you can misinterpret sole unreviewable discretion.
Yeah. Senator, thank you.